Currently looking at sea ice conditions of and around the Antarctic. Following, go backwards. Hello. Currently looking at Utah. Audio is coming through well. Now let's see myself a little bit. Little guy right here. It's the life of an iceberg. Just a large piece of ice fell off of a shelf and it does a little turn. It winds up here. And then it's out of there. Keep watching. See this, there should be large sea ice extent accompanied with all this, but instead we have a lot of open water. We know that because of the way that the ice moves on the water. You're not getting the flat, connected, frozen landscapes extend out for hundreds of feet. What instead that we're getting is a record amount of icebergs that are heading out to sea, Ocean Sea, eventually South Atlantic. Not that far, probably. There's South Georgia Islands. There's a lot of locations that an iceberg can wind up, besides just floating around aimlessly in the ocean, which might not last long in that case. We know that the water's not freezing yet because it's mixed. We see a lot of this happening. We see a lot of this happening here. See these sheets of ice. Like, this is perfect right here. This is a perfect example of representation of what's going on in Antarctica. The warmest northern hemisphere months turned into the warmest water, turned into the warmest gulfs, turned into the warmest seas, turned into water falling from the sky as precipitation, being warm as well. Instead of falling as snow, it falls as rain. Now we can see the sea ice loss here, represented by white for the sea ice concentration, and then blue. The more blue you see, the less sea ice concentration. This is year to date. Now here is a great example of what happens when the sea ice breaks apart. You get a shear, disconnects, but it doesn't just come off as one whole section. It's going to meet waves, it's going to break apart. And every time it breaks apart, it hits each other and breaks into smaller, and smaller amounts of sea ice. You can already see it thinning out here on the north side, northeast side of this. And then one very large crack. this whole thing moves out. After it moves out, it's going to face some force that's going to give it some kind of resistance. Either it's the water, treading, pulling water, or there might be parts of this frozen that are weighing it down as an anchor because it might not be as uniform coming down from the bottom as it looks from the top. Get that? We can have big rounded lumps that are frozen giant drops weighing down different parts of this ice sheet that's coming loose. There's no way of knowing this, and at least as far as I know. But it causes a lot of tension that builds up, especially along the plates. This is another example of what we're seeing of and around the Antarctic, is that when the sea ice breaks apart, warmer water moves faster. There's a lot of buildup on top of it that weighs it down. There's a lot of factors that are going against a lot of this sea ice extent of and around Antarctic. Continue. The rest of this is now cracking, as we can see. It's all coming out just like it did up here. Let's go back a little bit. This area up here used to have very similar sea ice, a sheet of sea ice covering it, connected to the mainland over here in this peninsular region. Let's go back a little bit. See here? It's what we're seeing of and around Antarctica, not just in the region we were just looking at, but it's a massive amount of sea ice that's breaking up of and around the Antarctic. It's 25th, keep going. 13th, just trying to get a clear shot of the sea ice, just like that. Just like that. Then we have this sea ice that's connected to what I would call the mainland. And all of this comes out. This whole sheet of ice just comes undone. Push play. You're already here on the 25th of December happening. Come back and they break ice. Break ice. Break ice. It all comes out. And it's not just being pushed out by external forces from bumping into each other, but also currents are taking all the ice out of this region, turning into like a gulf. But since the south side is currently also becoming undone in similar fashion. There's no telling what's happening next. Why we monitor with incremental updates. That's why anytime that I'm looking at this stuff, I usually would stream. Oh. That's all gone. Isn't not going to refreeze. Let's look at that again. Yeah, it's just massive. Back here. Oh, hey, look at that. There is a that is A23A. Do not see the other half in this scan. We do not see this. You go back one. There's the other half of it. Massive fractures. No telling how this thing's holding up in the sea right now. It is making its way north and it is rotating furiously. These two probably collided into each other just a little bit. It's not refreezing. You can tell by the movement of these icebergs. There are a lot of them now. None bigger than A23A. Let's go back to the fourth. Notice the ice connected here to the shelf. Look at that. Deafening. crack. They're sloping out and sliding out after expanding and fracturing for so long. Can we see it, I wonder? Can we see the stress fracture before it occurs? Because that looks like a complete bend. Push play. No, it's been like that for however long, but you can see the separation, ebb and flow, receding of the seawater with ice in it. It's not sea ice. It's not freezing back. A lot of sea ice that's migrating, moving around, getting lost in the currents, but it hasn't been refreezing. It doesn't move. It's been frozen in a month. That allows water temperatures to rise, and especially the way it catches on the body of Antarctica. And every time it pulls a little bit more off each time. Every time that the ice is ripped off part of Antarctica. This continually happens. I apologize, it's taking a moment to load. Okay, exit out, come back. Oh, nothing's coming up. Well, we can still look. You know, the time lapse is not working currently. All this in between all of these flat pieces of ice. Yeah, snow melting, water runoff that's causing a separation between the sea ice extent and Antarctica itself. It falls along like a skirt. Graveyard of icebergs. Probably never been so many that are loose. That as far as we know in modern times. This is a lot of the huge rush of this is pretty gnarly. Continuing. Right here. can see this completely decimated. All that sea ice is pulverized and dispersed all over the place in huge, huge currents. Take all this ice. It's not freezing. There are huge gaps between the continent and sea ice. And it's been like that for about 3 weeks or so. Let's see some sea ice here. Take a look at it. Coming undone. See here. There's sea ice all along here. Gone. Let's continue. It's not refreezing. It might look like sea ice, but it is definitely not freezing. The gaps are too large between ice and water. That is massive. That's what I'm saying. It's not refreezing. The currents are still tearing apart all the sea ice and it's not able to even defend itself. It's not refreezing. It's just getting smashed apart, pulverized, and then moved and taken, relocated and redistributed, dispersed. It is a lot of action, but it's happening in a way that's hard to see because it's the amount of let's say mixture on the surface. Sea ice melt, fresh water mixing with seawater. You have hundreds of little icebergs all along the place here. They're being dispersed. This is far south in the Pacific. I think it's the Pacific. I apologize, it's taking a minute to load. Let's come back over here. It is frustrating, I apologize. Let's continue. Massive iceberg here. I don't know if it's designation. Sure, there is one. Is this area supposed to be at? And we continue to look. Not obstructed, not able to see. Time lapse here. Water runs off in these streams that slowly trickle into the sea, make these thawing kind of imprints you can see here. A lot of the freshwater runoff that happens. Seeing a lot of bare rock. Yeah, that's a lot of bare rock. Wow, okay. I found Godzilla. Hey. That is a really striking pattern. I don't remember seeing this before. Can't tell if that's those are peaks or lakes. Can't tell. See if this makes a difference. Okay, they're peaks. Very strange looking peaks. No telling how long those have been down like this. So close to an active volcano. Never seen Antarctica like this before. The time lapse of this. The large mount feature. Mountain. That peninsula is gone. Yep. That is dramatic. Take this load again. A huge amount of ice that is lost here now too. Right here, all this in the east of this, especially this thinning here. It's not refreezing. It has not been refreezing in weeks. See a lot of ice moving around, but not sticking around. Whoa. Yeah, that's all ice. Bits of ice pulverized. It gets smashed to pieces and then carried away by the currents the current's power. That is spectacular. That is. Where is the sea ice here? All gone. Have an active volcano here to the east of this. Let's take a time lapse of this. A very generous, large time lapse. Region, even. Okay, still sea ice there on the 4th of January. Starts breaking up on the 10th of January. Huge portions breaking up. Even further, heading west. Too big to ignore. It's sea ice the size of some countries. Missing. Gone. Melted from the bottom up. This is not good. Lead to sea level rise, flooding, a lot of flooding in South America and South Africa. Flooding that just doesn't seem to stop because huge hundreds of thousands of tons of fresh water are entering into the seas, propping those seas up and causing I don't know quite the effect of what the name of it is called when a sea becomes too full of water and pops up and all that water shoots out. There has to be a name for it, I just don't remember. Right now that we're seeing an enormous amount of sea ice loss that is continuing east in this image to a volcano called Mount Erebus here to the east. You can see the ground here. That's why I wasn't sure if those were peaks or lakes, because it leaves behind a lot of lakes. You can see the ice here receding on top of the ground. It's huge losses that's taking. It becomes dry, no vegetation, cold, barren, wasteland. Can't believe this site here. All these dots here are icebergs. Every single one of them is like this, is like this, is like this. Virtually is cloud coverage. Whoa. 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 I'll go back one more time. It actually looks like it's up here first. Let's do one of these. And just these are. This is what it looks like when it's not frozen, still moving around. This is what happens when huge. Like, this is some of the most ice loss I think I've seen. $40 kilometers, 30 kilometers or so. It's irregularly shaped. There's no telling for thickness either of the ice that was lost. This is a horror show. These are all icebergs too. These aren't just pieces of random bits of snow that built up or anything. These are icebergs, like thousands of icebergs, tens of thousands of icebergs. This is very unsettling. All these dots, every single one of these is an iceberg that's being carried away by power of the currents. This is devastating. None of it looks to be refreezing, and it's a lot of open ocean, open sea. Look here, see if we can get time lapse of this failing. Look at this again. You can see stress marks. Another giant piece of ice that's gone. Shatters, it keeps hitting each other and breaks apart as it keeps hitting other forces, but this is just devastating. Hello, I see you in chat. Thank you. Now it's so much. We don't need the best resolution to see just how much of this is collapsed. What should be covered by sea ice is covered by myriads of not looking great. And we just continue to peruse the don't think that would make a difference, but just to make sure, let's look up. More sea ice loss where ice used to be getting ripped apart. Well, here's some icebergs. Pretty big. These are more formed in a pile, stuck together, all leading together as a bridge. There's hundreds, depending on the size. These are just even smaller bits and bits and bits. This is all pieces of ice. This isn't anything else really. It's just all the ice that have collapsed, formed all these tens of thousands of little icebergs. And they're being carried away, not able to refreeze where they once stood. And it's massive. Every single speck is an iceberg. Every single speck of all that white is an iceberg that got pulverized and crushed up. The whoa. "18 kilometers long." Where this might have came from. This is a giant piece of ice. Let's see if it makes any movements. You see it just under the see it just under the cloud. The back part of it came off, but it's a huge piece of ice. Everything gets caught, bumped. A lot of broken up ice. You can see some stress marks here, some stress. More absence of sea ice and fusion of all this. All these specks here too. It just looks like it's all around Antarctica. Sea ice pulverized into these little cubes. These currents are strong. Okay. See. I can froze. Maybe if I stop clicking on it, it will stop. Well, it's not going well, is it? Not even in HD. It's crashing. Okay, well, that didn't work out too well. What I was just trying to look at is see the currents, but it froze up and I don't want to risk a crash. For some reason that website did not want to play. Like, so much ice that just gets pulled apart and pulverized that we are seeing here. Let's see, it's gonna catch up. More the ice extent disconnect, breaking apart. They roll, smash into each other, make themselves a lot smaller. Seeing it all over Antarctica, everywhere. The entire extent, sea ice extent to is looking really not looking healthy. We're seeing far too much breaking apart. A lot of these frozen in place here. This is what it looks like when these chunks of ice here are frozen in place in the sea ice extent. It's like an indentation. You can see the shadow of it inside the feature. That's what it looks like when it's frozen. When it's not frozen and it's bonking around, allowing for more light to travel into the sea to warm it up, it works from the bottom up. The water below it heats up, and as water heats up, it also expands. So as the cold water that is coming off these icebergs, off the snow melt, ice melt of Antarctica, it is having an expansion effect in the water that's causing a whole host of problems. I think we reached the end here. I think this might be, got a little bit more to go. I just hope this refreezes again, because we did have the hottest July on record, in the hottest northern hemisphere. All that heat transfers as the axis turns. I expect to see a lot of wildfires around Africa, South America, and Australia. Australia is looking at a huge heat wave coming up. So Western Australia, look out. It might sneak up on everybody, because it's been largely quiet on wildfires lately in Australia. There's no telling what's going to happen whenever it's 40°C plus. This texture is just absolutely remarkable. It looks like what it looks like whenever the water makes these little channels in there. Wow. Unbelievable. More sea ice loss. Yeah. Ooh, wow, that came into focus really clear. This is January 24th, this date of this scan. Shattering sea ice. It looks like not only is it being broken apart, but it's also being pulled out. It is another world. All the sea ice being broken apart. Not on purpose, I'm not saying ships going out there and breaking it all apart. I don't think any modern method would work like as effective as this in climate change. Right. If this load, I apologize. What happened when the water was the warmest water on record after the warmest July on record became the warmest northern hemisphere on record that transferred all that heat south as the axis turned. Tilted. Let's look at this one last time. Apologize, taking a moment to load. Shattering. Load. Magnetic pulse shifting. Oh, not really. Mainly what we can see on satellite that we would look at. There's real amount of real ice loss here. The time lapse of this. Separated two different bays. Bay number 1, bay number 2. Bay number 1, all that ice has already been pulverized as it just jostles its way out. Now we're seeing an enormous amount of sea ice loss. What is bay number 2 right here? Bay number 1 is done. I'll push play. It starts breaking apart. And as it clumps up into each other, it can break apart even more. Pancakes, pretty much. They become rounded pancakes. Round-like pancakes. Giant here. Push play. Real dramatic looking images. Very surprising. But we've been monitoring these changes for the past few months, and it's still shocking to see whenever there's a rapid increase of any kind of activity. There's no telling what it might look like, but it might look like this. This might be the worst of it that we're seeing. Not saying that it's not going to refreeze, but we just looked at over 2 months of satellite data of and around Antarctica, the sea ice extent, and the only conclusion that we can walk away with is that there's a lot of ice melting, not a lot of freezing. There's a lot of ice that has melted over the past few weeks. And this right here, this might look like sea ice, because it is, but it's a whole bunch of little icebergs that are bumping together. They're not frozen in place. They're not becoming part of the sea ice extent of Antarctica. Maybe they'll, I don't know, this is just so much sea ice loss here, this bay here. As soon as this bay here comes loose, but that's not to say that this is not thick or thin, but I've seen a lot of this, a lot of different kinds of channels and ridges that could happen after these roll over. You see all of the inside of what the water looks like going through underneath all the channels. Let's see, what else is there? Leave this negative wake here. As the icebergs rotate, they're leaving behind a negative wake of open water that makes it more difficult for the sea ice or the sea water to freeze again. Especially as it just keeps getting pulled, pushed and pulled and rotated. It is a lot of breakage. Thank you for watching. a lot of ice that is just shattered, that's flattened, that's thinned out. You got these giant pieces that smash into everything that make these rotations that push all the other ice out. Even this little guy right here making a big impact. Take a look at that. Apologize, taking a moment to load. Push play, turn on the fading effects and everything like that, all the good stuff. Back. Date you can see here on the top right. The resolution that we're working at. It's a lot of slush. I would say it's slush. A lot of slush surrounded by icebergs, surrounded by bits of broken off pieces of Antarctica like shelves. And then you get a lot of areas like this that are just breaking apart. You see the sea ice here. There's a lot of open water. Oh, let's do a time lapse of this area here. Don't think I've done that here before, recently. It just keeps getting rotated out. It just keeps getting rotated out with warm water because the warm water is going to be what's moving the fastest. Okay, let's continue. It's just congestion of sea ice, it's not freezing. As soon as it looks like anything's going on, it just pulls back. There's just a massive gap between Antarctica and the ice extent. Again, these are all in the last few days. So, looks two very long stress marks, fraction marks. They eventually start doing that. Like teeth, like gears. Slowly. There we go. Just here's a little bit of sea ice. Very little bit of sea ice. It's not saying that Antarctica is melting down. It's the sea ice extent that makes up the buffer zone going to. That's why you need icebreakers and stuff to get to Antarctica. But this is alarming because it's receding to the point that you don't need icebreakers. You just need to be able to push through the ice because it's not frozen in place, just sitting there. being moved around by currents. Here's a good example of these stress features. It starts going like this and breaking down. Which play? It's a lot of open water. We can only just keep observing and incremental updates. Hope for change, but we need to change, and that's a lot to ask for. That looks pretty gnarly right here. Yeah. Take a look at that. Push play. Yeah, that's loss. That's sea ice loss. Yes, striking. Let's do one of these real quick on it. We have the sea ice here. One, two, three. Continue to look. To watch. Monitor. Take a look at this. See the sea ice extent locks this iceberg into place here. I fear this might experience melt. Oh. Oh, it just did, I guess. Let's play that again because I didn't expect that. You can see the ice that we're referring to right here with this staying in position because it's frozen. We have cracks over here. And this whole thing just comes out. Play again. Just so much breakage. Boom. The whole thing just comes off now. Now this is going to be another giant problematic iceberg in the near future. As it's let's go back to that. That was not at the latest date. 1, 2, 3. Now this very large iceberg is loose. 20 kilometers, it's pretty big. Yet another one that looks like it flipped over, or piece of Antarctica ice shelf, probably. See if we can find out where it came from. Yeah, there you go. Okay, push play. It's coming in from the east. It sails right through. Let's go up a little bit higher. You can see this little guy here in December 31st. It's hanging around. Play. It's a lot of open water. Continue, continue, and continue. I would have expected a little more ice to pop up by now. Okay, let's go back. Sentinel-3 imaging. You're just waiting for this to load, I apologize. There we go. Alright. Alright, I thank you for watching and listening. You can please, if you haven't already, like the stream and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out immensely as I continue to make efforts to monitor sea ice conditions of and around Antarctica. Right now, Greenland and Iceland, all the north pole looks pretty good and stretched out whenever it comes to sea ice, so that's why we're not covering this as much, because it's showing an increase of sea ice concentration. Unlike year to date 224, Antarctica is losing sea ice concentration. You can see here the heat transferring from north to south is why we are seeing this. The hottest July on record became the hottest seas and oceans on record, and that transfers all the way south, very south. We're looking at just just complete absence of sea ice up and around Antarctica. The volcano Mount Erebus is still active, but I don't think it's due to a volcano that's causing these issues that we are seeing. It is due to a global warming effect of up to 1.4 degrees Celsius for last year. It is climate change, and it hit Antarctica very hard. Let's see. I hope my audio is still going through okay. I see my bars moving, so that must mean it is okay. I don't dare turn myself on. I don't want to listen to myself. That'll throw me off quite a bit. You don't want to hear yourself. It's just to make a person a monster that wants to hear themselves talk, like literally hear themselves talk. Like not just like the sound of their own voice, but just like, I'm gonna listen to myself and go back and listen to. I can't do that. That's why I didn't know I had so many audio issues over the last week. Just not listening to the product. Has it never occurred? Like, maybe I should listen to last week's podcast. Not podcast. Didn't mean to call this a podcast or anything really. It just is climate reporting and calamity. Climate and calamity reporting. Let's do this. Ooh. More open waters. Never we're gonna look, we're just gonna see open water, absence of sea ice, and just smashed up bits. Okay, I thank you for watching, especially All Out 2. Thank you for watching. I am going to call the stream here. Went around Antarctica a couple of times and made sure to look especially at regions that are famous for sea ice. Now, one thing that I really hate the most is sea ice is home to many animals, especially penguins. And I don't want to see those numbers just yet of how many penguins might have been affected. A lot. Alright. Well, I thank you very much for watching. Please like the stream, subscribe to the channel. I am going to be back with another stream soon. There is either I cover wildfires and sea ice condition and calamities. Thank you.